So I'm delighted to welcome Gareth Everson today on this recording with me. And we're going to talk about Gareth's book, The Lemonade Plan. And you'll see from obviously everything I've marked in the book that it's a great book. And what I want to do first off is explain my love of books and how it arose and why I think books are important. So I think those of us of a certain generation, we always grew up with Jack and Ori. We always grew up with mum and dad reading us a bedtime story. And I think for me, that's stuck with me. So I remember reading Enid Blyton. I remember reading Willard Price, all those books. And for me, one of my favourite books was Noddy, if I'm allowed to mention Noddy. And one of my memories about one of my Noddy books was Noddy and the Magic Rubber. And the beauty about Noddy and his magic rubber was if Noddy didn't like something, he used his magic rubber and it erased it. So, and wouldn't it be wonderful in today's age that if there was something we didn't like, something we disagreed with it, we could just wipe it, erase it? If we look back at most cultures throughout the world, they've actually kept their history, kept their culture alive by telling stories. And I think for me, and what you'll see from Gareth's book is Gareth's got a number of characters in the book that hopefully Gareth will explain to us about their journey into enforcing the Lemonade Plan. But first off, Gareth, I wanted to thank you for being with us today, and secondly, I want to ask you tell us a little bit about your background and basically how your business journey began.
Well, thanks for having me on the show, Paul. I really appreciate it. My background has always been in tech. Out of university, I joined a tech consultancy called Accenture, and I worked with large blue chip retailers. I was there for about 8 years. Loved it. Learned so much. Probably had a 15-year career in 18 years. It was one of those kind of roles out of university. But when our first child came along, Jack, just over 19 years ago now, I had seen so many of my colleagues in that kind of environment, working away from home and on projects and quite stressful environment, be completely disconnected from their family and from their children. And I knew that I didn't want that to happen for me. And so, about 3 months after Jack was born, I was looking at business opportunities either to buy or to start or to invest in. And since, what would it be, 2007, January 2007, I've had my own businesses. I've had four or five in that time, and they've mostly been around a theme of technology and using data better, using insights better, combining, which I really enjoy, combining the analytics with the creative, with the kind of psychology of business. And over that time, over those 19 years, I've gradually moved more into the systems side of business, into the sales and marketing systems. And for the last 15 years, I've been working with some really key players in the systems market, most recently Go High Level, but prior to that, Active Campaign and Keep, who used to be called Infusionsoft, and helping small owner-managed businesses to better run their sales and marketing systems in their business. I'm sure we'll get into why, but I really like that market and helping that market because I feel like I can make a real difference in it.
And I guess it's a market you understand, isn't it? Because for me, we're in the 21st century. Let's repeat that again. We're in the 21st century. We should all be able to let technology do the heavy lifting in our businesses, shouldn't we? The days of quill pens and ledgers and all that type of stuff have gone.
Yep.
A lot of the manual ways of actually writing letters has gone. There is a better way to actually deal with things. There is an easier way to do it. And I think the problem that we all face is that we all believe there is a better and a different way. And I think we need to find that path as to what is that better way that actually works for us.
Yeah, absolutely. But the point that nobody really recognizes when they first start their business is that you go into business to do the thing that you're good at, to do the thing that you have the expertise in. You're an accountant and a very good one. Other people might be plumbers, or they might be surveyors, or they might be, whatever that skill set that they've learned over the years, probably in a corporate environment, they want to then bring that into running their own business, and nobody gets into business to run the systems, to run the admin, to have to market it, to have to sell within it. Nobody really starts a business because they're passionate about all of those kind of things. They're passionate about helping the people that they can help to solve the problems that they have. And why I like sales and marketing systems is that it helps those businesses that are expert in something else to spend more of their time doing that thing that they love, more so than the marketing or the sales.
And I think you have a slightly different definition of success, isn't it? What are the facets of success? I think one of them you say is being profitable, isn't it? And the second one is what we've been talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of people will purely judge the success of business based on profits that that business makes, and you can't run a business without profit. You can't run it over the long term anyway. I have this perspective that there are two solid measures of business. One is a backwards looking one. So, how have you done in the past? And profit is a great indicator of that. Have you got everything right in order to make profitable returns and successful returns for your clients? So, that's the backward looking one. But the forward looking one, and this is the one that we start with in the book, is are you getting endorsements for the work that you do? And I call it forward looking because if people are giving you positive reviews, referring you to others, hiring you again, giving you case studies, endorsing you for the work that you do, that's a really good indicator that that business that you run will be successful in the long term as well. So I think there are two measures of success: your profits and how you're endorsed in your business.
I don't know if you've ever read a book by a chap called Gordon Bethune, who was took over an American airline, and and airlines only have forward-looking indicators. So basically, they look at the amount of lost luggage, the amount of on time flights left that leave on time, the amount of customer complaints. Because what they're doing is they argue that their accounts, to a certain extent, is a recording history. It's what's happened.
Hmm.
Was actually Peter Drucker said the best way to predict the future is to create it. And some of
Mm.
those indicators we're talking about would actually create your future, wasn't it? So we have lost luggage, or is a good indicator that basically the flight's messed up, isn't it? Things have gone wrong. The customer complaints is a way to measure that things have gone wrong. And I think the problem that we face in today's environment, we just use a set of accounts to keep score. But but I can't affect yesterday, but I can affect tomorrow. And the way that we affect tomorrow is by looking at what are the leading indicators that will enable us to achieve success tomorrow and the day after and the day after that.
Yeah, I'm glad that resonated with you.
Yeah. So the lemonade plan is your baby, and there is a mnemonic that why the lemonade is lemonade, isn't it? The name is lemonade,
Yeah.
and you in your book elaborate a lot on the four key systems that you've got, and you actually introduce us to some people in your book to actually make the uh, ideas in your book, the systems in your book, more relatable to us in business as to how we can implement it. Because all well and good having the theory, but I'm allowed to say this, what in my opinion separates the men from the boys, which is maybe a little bit sexist, but that maybe says about my age, is the people who actually take action. And I think what we need to do is we need to try and galvanize people into taking action. And I think your book is good on the basis that we have real life stories based on real people who've had, there's a physio, there's a heating engineer, there's a business coach, etc. in your book. And
Mm.
we all look at how they've implemented some of the four um, areas for systems that you said should be implemented. So would you like to explain the four systems to people, please?
Yeah, happily. So the context for why I wrote the book in a story format is that unlike you or I, many people don't really enjoy reading business books or non-fiction books that have that air of kind of textbook about them. And in the nature of my business, in teaching people about systems and how to run processes more effectively, there's a decent element of the textbook to all of that. And so I wanted to just bring it to life a little bit more in a similar way to the way that Michael Gerber did with the E-Myth Revisited, And if you're a follower of John Warrilow, he copied that kind of same format with his book Built to Sell, telling the story about an agency owner growing their business for sale. I really like that format, and it resonates with me. And as you referred to in your opening, people remember stories, they remember the emotions, they remember how people feel, and why doing certain things have the outcomes that they do. So that was why
Because
I
there's a
chose the.
great, you probably know it, there's a great Mayor Angelou quote, isn't it? Mayor Angelou quote who says, people do not remember what you did, people do not remember what you said, but people remember how you made them feel, isn't it?
Exactly,
And I think it's
exactly.
all about feelings, it's all about emotions, it's all about trying to get people's buy-in, trying to get people to identify with the people in the story that they can think, oh yeah, that's me, I've done that, etc.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
So as you meet the four protagonists in the story and you experience what their frustrations are, and frustrations that probably resonate with you as a business owner, we can then go through, as you say, those four key systems under which there are 8 processes, and think about how our four characters in the book and how they solve the problems that they have in their own business around those processes, how we can address those in our own business. And you're right, Lemonade is an acronym for the 8 key processes. And those 8 key processes go from the first, the L being around leads, then how we educate those leads so that they become nurtured and want to do something with us, how we then book meetings, the M of Lemonade, with them, the sales meeting, how we then make them an offer that they might want to do their first work with us, that's the O. Then how do we onboard them as new clients, the N of Lemonade. How do we then upsell to them, sell them different services once we've done that first work? Those are the add-ons. Um, and then the final 2 relate to the overall delivery of the work, the D of Lemonade, and then ultimately the endorsements that we get for doing that work effectively. And the way I position it in the book is that most people, when they're thinking about their sales and marketing in the business, start from the perspective that they need leads into their business, and that should be the first thing that they think about. I frame an argument for actually looking at it the other way round, starting with the end in mind. What would successful outcomes be by way of endorsements for the work that you've done? And how do you work back from that so that you frame every single process and everything, every single system that you set up in your business, gearing towards what that positive review or that referral would say about the work that you've done, and systematically put in place all of the key steps to lead towards getting that endorsement more predictably. So many people complain or get frustrated that they're not receiving reviews for the good work that they've done or the perceived good work that they think they've done with clients, but are actually probably missing the mark with some of those steps that they're taking or some of those expectations that they're setting with their clients to not receive those. And the book talks about how you can, if you flip it the other way around and start to think about how you want to be referred or how you want to be reviewed from the outset, putting every single step that goes towards making that happen more predictably in place, and having systems that work repeatedly and scalably and consistently in order to do that. And I think that perspective, the starting with the end in mind, is probably some of the most positive feedback that I've had for the book. Just getting people to think about their business and their relationship with clients and how they run that business slightly differently to the way that they've done so.
I think that's a unique approach. And one of the things that we've adopted is that when we take on a new customer, is we would ask, how will you judge in 6 months or 12 months' time that your decision to instruct us was the right one for us or the right one for you?
Yep.
And the
Oh,
same when we take on an employee, because
yep.
at the moment the job market is difficult, isn't it? So when we take on a new employee, we would say, how would you view your decision to join us, to work with us, was the right one for you? And that gives you an idea of how people measure things, because different people measure things in different ways. And
Yep.
coming back to your leads, one of the things for me is that most people rely on referrals. They don't have an automatic system that generates 10 leads a week, 20 leads a week, however many. And I think the problem is that we all become busy and then we think, oh my God, I couldn't take on any more work, so I'm not going to market anymore. And then we go quiet, and then we market like hell, then we get a lot more work in, then we go quiet again. So it's either feast or famine. And what your system, what your book attempts to do is to make that approach like uniform, that you have the same amount of leads coming in all the time that you need to make a success of your business.
Yeah, it's this
But
boom and bust cycle, isn't it? And breaking away from that.
yeah, and it's hard for most people to do, because as you quite rightly said, most people go into business because they're technicians, because they're good at what they do. Nobody's taught them how to do anything. We learn on the job, so to speak, in terms of management. We read books, we watch videos, we listen to podcasts, we talk to our mates, and that's how we learn. And I think for me, the best lessons that I've ever learned are the ones that cost me money,
Hmm.
because you listen to someone says, "Oh, you should do this," and you think, "Well, what do they know?" But when it actually hits you in your pocket and it costs you real money, you think, "Oh my God, they were talking right."
Mm.
Because there's always an expert. There's Dave in the pub who always thinks he knows better, always thinks he's got the answer to everything, and actually, that's wrong. So, the four systems in the book. Do you want to describe the systems and what they do briefly?
Yeah, yeah. So those eight processes fit into four systems. Basically, an attraction system. How do you generate those leads and educate them? That's the first, the L and the E of Lemonade. Then we have to have a sales system. How do we turn those qualified prospects into clients? And those are our meetings and offer steps of Lemonade. Then how do we onboard and delight those clients? The onboarding system covers the new clients and the add-on processes in Lemonade. And then in terms of our delight system, our fourth and final one, or the first and foremost one, if you want to think about it in those terms, if we're reversing it, our delight system is about how we deliver the work that we promised to do. And then how do we ask for those endorsements? And of course, all of this is all about communication and setting expectations, right? So if we're looking to deliver our work effectively and get endorsed for it, we need to seed into those early stages, how we generate those leads and how we capture them and nurture them in the first place, what our expectations are of them. So we're sharing reviews that people have left us before. We're subtly dropping into those sales conversations references to the fact that most of our business comes from referrals. It might not, but we're framing that with them. And would they mind if we've done a really good job and we deliver everything that we promised to do, asking them for a review or referral? Most people would say yes to that, but it's about framing and it's about getting permission to do these things and to ask for these things as we go, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things that I've learned over the years is that basically when we take on someone new, is I would say, I want you to appreciate the value that I can bring to your business, because in 6 months' time, when I asked you, is there anybody you know I could help, you were happy to come up with someone, but I want you to experience it first, so that you can talk from a position of personally of what we've actually helped you achieve. So when
Absolutely.
I actually ask you, and I think a lot of people don't frame things, don't actually ask. And I think most of our customers would actually give you referrals, give you leads if you actually asked. And what you find amongst the customer base is there'll be people who refer you all the time, and there'll be people who never refer you, and there's sort of a bunch in the middle who may, if you remind them, aren't there? Have you
Yeah,
found?
I think in our culture, there's a great Britishness and an awkwardness around being reluctant to ask for that review or that referral. I think in other cultures, Australia comes to mind, the US also, they're a lot more forthcoming and a lot more direct about that expectation setting. I think we could do a lot to learn from those kind of cultures around just being more upfront and honest, because actually a delighted client loves nothing more than to see you succeed as well, and refer you to others.
Because it reinforces their decision to instruct you, to work with you, was the right one, isn't it?
Absolutely. You've nailed that.
Because in effect we all want reassurance to a certain extent. As business owners, we're all lonely, aren't we? We all have those moments of doubt at midnight or when we wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning thinking, oh my God, have I made the right decision? And we always need someone to help us justify it if that's the right way.
Yeah.
So what I loved in your book was that you talked about things like one hit wonders, which and the workout playlist and the greatest hits album. I think, would you be I mean, that's the first time I've heard those terminologies, and there's something that stuck with me because I'm young enough to remember LPs and
Yep.
singles and to see them in the greatest hits compilation and all those type of things. And to me, that resonates. Whereas maybe for some of the younger people to be downloading and streaming stuff, the greatest hits and one hit wonders and albums, that type of thing doesn't actually resonate. So would you like to elaborate a little bit more to whet people's appetite?
Well, we're both music fans, Paul, and we're both of that generation that has come through having vinyls, then having tapes, and then having to replace all of those with CDs and then seeing them go digital. We basically bought our favorite music probably 4 or 5 times over our life, haven't we, in different formats? And as a music fan, but also as a bit of a nerdy geek in terms of explaining processes, one of the challenges when I was writing the book was how do I explain to people the challenges that come from effective follow-up nurture marketing, specifically email marketing. That's the core these days, isn't it? And this is one of the processes that I would say most service businesses get wrong in their business. It's the step between somebody becoming a lead and then becoming a qualified prospect where they're sitting down in front of you and having a sales meeting. That jump from lead to sales meeting is a chasm for most businesses. And they get and most businesses get this wrong, Paul. They think that just because somebody has filled in your questionnaire or your quiz or a form on your website that they're going to buy from you. And that's absolutely not the case. So many businesses don't follow up in any way. They don't send any sort of emails out. They're not phoning. They're not doing direct mail. They're not doing anything of that nature. But those who do generally fall into three categories. The first category is what I would describe as I've described it in the book, the one hit wonder. Somebody fills in a form on your website, somebody makes an inquiry or something, and they literally get one email back from you, and that's it. They get whatever they've asked for, the lead magnet or the inquiry response or something like that, and that's literally it. And they don't do anything else other than that. And that's your classic one-hit wonder, having this expectation in a similar way to one of those 80s Stock Aitken and Waterman classics, where their career would be made just off the back of that one hit. And that's absolutely not the case. Most businesses that are selling a service, there's a level of complexity to what you do, and there's a level of thought process that somebody needs to go through to think about hiring you and to think to frame the problems that they're experiencing in a way that's a more natural progression to them realizing that you're the solution to those problems and that they should buy that service from you. The one hit wonder just doesn't do it. Then we get the other end of the of the spectrum, not quite the other end of the spectrum, but the alternative to this. And this is what I would describe as the web marketing guru problem. You see this guidance online all the time, that when somebody opts in or downloads a lead magnet of yours or makes an inquiry, you should follow up with them for a week and no more than a week. And over the course of that week, you're probably sending them 4, 5, or 6 emails, maybe even one email a day for that week. I call this scenario the workout playlist. It's just the same as you registering to go to the gym and you go and do a workout and you are there for half an hour or 40 minutes and they are absolutely relentless with you, and then you're done at the end of it and you're absolutely worn out. That workout playlist that they're playing during your workout is the equivalent of you bombarding somebody with emails for that first week, and then never touching them afterwards, and literally having this expectation with them that over the course of the week that you're bombarding them with this information overload, that somehow you'll convince them that you are the latest and greatest and most effective way that they're going to solve the problems that they have, and they're going to make that decision within a week. Most service businesses aren't selling within a week. Most service businesses that sell anything of any value, there's a thought process and there's a decision process involved in all of that.
There's
And that's
almost a
why
courtship. There's almost a courtship, isn't there,
it
Gareth?
is a courtship, Paul. That's a really good sort of analogy if we think about it in those terms. And that's why I have this third scenario, this other end of the spectrum scenario of you should have a greatest hits, your own greatest hits album of insights and experiences and stories and reviews that you can share with somebody that's opted in to download your lead magnet or made an inquiry with you over probably a 90-day or perhaps even a 6-month period. Have 12 or 13 emails that are going out over that period that gradually build up that rapport with them, that build that courtship that you've just described. That's a far better way of cementing trust with somebody. If you're bombarding somebody with a workout playlist, literally by about day 4 or 5, they've stopped reading your emails. They've started ignoring them.
Even if they
If
read them in the first place.
even if they read them if they've read them in the first place, you've probably bombarded them with too much information that they can't even process it outside of their busy day to day. So this greatest hits album, you're probably not sending any more than sort of 2 or 3 times the volume, but doing so over a much greater breathing space for them to process, to think about it, to consider other problems that they're facing that relate to this problem that they brought to you in the first place. And it builds that trust and it extends that courtship and it cements you as the logical choice when they're thinking about making that decision to go with somebody, perhaps 6 or 9 weeks or 12 weeks down the road. The people that are following up with them in that workout playlist format, the bombarding one, have long since gone. Yeah, their interest, if you like, if we want to call it that, because it's an automation, right? But it feels like their interest in that person has long since waned. The person that just sent the one email, they can't even remember what website they were on to get that from. So having that relationship with them, that is an email relationship. It might be a video relationship. It might be podcasts that you're sending to them. It might be some direct mails that you're including in the mix. But that courtship builds that level of trust with them that you're likely to be in that consideration process when they're actually ready to make a decision. And so that's why I played with the kind of musical concepts in
And
the
it
book.
works really well. It's stuck in my mind. It's easy to understand, isn't it? For those of us who had vinyl, maybe for the younger generation who didn't have vinyl, perhaps it's not so easy to
Oh, there's still such a concept of the greatest hits playlist on Spotify.
understand. One of the things that I was always taught, have you come across the word glue? And
Yep.
glue stands for give little unexpected extras. So
Yep.
basically what you do, excuse me, with your customers, with your prospects, is you send them something out of the blue that they automatically think of you, because we're talking about automation. And obviously, I think during COVID, automation, if it hadn't been at the fore before automation in COVID and emails and um, virtual meeting, all that came to the fore, I think we've almost gone backwards a little bit, that we're almost back at snail mail and in-person meetings now. And I think depending on which age, which generation of people you're talking to, different generations will have different ways that they want to actually interact with you. And I think
Yeah. There's a complex mix. I was with a client last week, and one of the key members of the team didn't come to the in-person meeting. And it was that awkward bridge between an in-person client meeting. I don't do many on-site in-person workshops, but when I do, I try to make them meaningful and get everybody around the table so that they're interacting and all of that kind of stuff. But one really key person from that team insisted on just joining via Zoom. And it made the whole relationship and the whole outcomes from that meeting ever so disjointed and just a strange environment with it. But I think you're right. I think there's this return to the desire to have face to face, or the desire to have the tangible and physical, whether it's a direct mail or a book or something that they can grasp and play with and doodle on and all of that kind of thing. I think you're right there, Paul.
I, I think in the days of newspapers, and we used to take cuttings out of newspapers, and I would send it to you if it was relevant, and I would say, "I saw this and thought of you, Gareth."
Yep,
And people used to love that because not enough people actually did that type of thing. And I think the problem that we've all got is that to a certain extent, we're almost seen in a sea of sameness.
yep,
We need to differentiate ourselves in whatever way that is appropriate to us and our business, but we need to cut through that, because otherwise potentially we're seen as a commodity. And
yep,
the problems with commodities is the prices go down, don't they?
yep,
It's a race to the bottom. It's who's the cheapest. Whereas
yep,
what we're all trying to do, and what your book does really well, is it builds on the fact that we want to generate relationships. We want lasting relationships, isn't it? You know, one hit wonders, coming back to what we talked about, are no good to anybody, are they? We want
absolutely not.
continuous playlists, don't we?
Yeah. If somebody makes a decision to hire from a service-based business after one email or after one momentary consideration, they're probably going to be terrible to work with anyway, because they haven't fully grasped what you do or what the state of their problem really is. So their expectations are going to be up here, and the reality of the service that you're going to deliver, because you don't know enough about them and they don't know enough about you, is going to be so much lower. So I think actually slowing down the process of somebody working with you, not to a standstill, but to a more considered outcome, is no bad thing, really.
And coming back to what you said about we want to understand what our customers, what our clients do, and they want to understand what we do. Why we love in-person meetings is because the business owner loves to show you around his premises, and you see his shiny new printing machine, and you talk about the day it jammed and there was oil on the floor and the rest of it. And it's those little things that actually make that relationship better and make that a better business for you. So if we go through the book, I think the four people in the book, there was Michael the physio, there was Emma the VA. Emma was the VA, wasn't she? And then there
Yep.
was Sarah the business coach,
Yep.
and there was James that I would call a plumber, but you called a heating engineer. But
Yep.
what I would call a plumber, isn't it? And
I,
what,
I don't think heating engineers would necessarily agree with you, but yeah, I know what you mean.
but I, I always believe, is it a shovel or is it a spade? Was as far as I'm concerned, it's a digging implement. You know what I mean? Does it? It does the job. But I think if we look through those four case studies that you did, those interactions, those stories of those people, using your process, they were able to achieve great results, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's fictitious, but they're based on real stories of clients that I've worked with in the last 15 years. They're stories that I've taken from over 400 different client experiences, condensed into one book. So they're not representative of every single scenario, but they're representative enough of some of the key challenges that service-based helping businesses face specifically. And this is really key, specifically those businesses. I call them solo director businesses. The American term is solopreneur, but I don't like that. That feels like a one-person business. All four of our protagonists are solo directors of their own business. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're working on their own and that they're their own person, but they are the person, the solo director, who is responsible for the sales, the marketing, and the, should we say, the client experiences in their business. People like that, people like you or I, no, maybe me, not necessarily you, Paul, because you told me about the structure of your business, but for many of your clients, they don't have that person to turn to for the guidance on how they should run marketing or sales or client experience more effectively. And that's why Lemonade Plan exists, that if they don't have anybody to turn to, they're not in a mastermind group, or they're not working with the likes of a Sarah as a business coach, or the likes of a Paul Miller as their thoughtful accountant. Lemonade Plan gives them that route to think about how to structure marketing, sales, and client experience so that they can focus on the things that they want to and not the things that they don't.
So one of the things that sort of leapt out to me from the book was your concept of signature offer. That I think as business owners, we try and muddy the waters by offering too many things, and it
Mm-hmm.
creates confusion in the client's mind as to what's right for them. So what I loved about your book was that the fact that, and the lemonade plan is an example of it, is a signature offer, isn't it?
Mm.
Is that you lead with one thing, and if that's the lemonade plan isn't right for me, potentially in your toolbox you've got something else that would work, but you actually
Mm-hmm.
only lead on one. And I think as business owners, we try and lead on too many things, so we confuse our customers.
Our clients are our customers, and our clients are already confused about the problems that they face. So leaving it up to them to decide what they want from you is absolutely the wrong way round. We run our business. Anybody that's of sort of a similar age and a mindset to us, Paul, has probably been doing what they do for at least 5, if not 10 or more years. And so leaving it up to our prospective customers or clients to dictate to us what they want from us is absolutely the wrong way round. We know exactly the problems and the challenges and the scenarios and the expectations and the negative outcomes that they'll get by not following our guidance and our advice. So it's incumbent on us to then relate that back to the services that we offer. And having that signature offer, to me, just completely makes sense. And I put that as a specific component of the book because out of those clients that I've worked with, the clients that have that signature offer mindset that I've worked with are the ones that end up being the most successful as business owners. They're clearer about what they deliver. They know that by delivering the components of that signature offer, that they'll deliver great client outcomes. And when they deliver great client outcomes, those clients are more willing to endorse them for the work that they've done.
So coming back to what you said is that obviously um, about outcomes, and I think too many business owners are focused on inputs rather than outputs. And our
Mhm.
outcomes are obviously an output of actually working with you, working with me, etc. And um, they don't really understand what success looks like, do they? They don't really understand what they want. They want someone to actually give them a heads up. And I think most people I've worked with, when you actually talk to them about success and you ask them questions, they probably know what they want in their own mind. And it's almost cathartic, if I'm allowed to use that word, that by explaining it to me, it actually makes it more relevant, more apparent in their own mind. They probably knew what they wanted to do, but they just wanted someone to give them a little bit of a nudge, a little bit of a push.
Yep.
And the word that we used earlier was about reassurance, isn't it? That what they're doing is in the right way. So if we look at your book, Gareth, and the Lemonade Plan as your signature offer, that works for service businesses, doesn't it? So we talked about the heating engineer, we talked about the business coach, we talked about the VA, we talked about the physio. So it would work with people like that, wouldn't it? It work with accountants, work with lawyers, all those type of people, wouldn't it?
Yeah, any business that provides a service that solves problems that the client or customer has, where there is, I would describe it as a decision cycle. It's not an immediate decision for them to hire you. They're not going and buying a portion of, fast food here. What they're doing is they are looking for help to solve a significant problem in their own life or business that they can't solve themselves. And so it's businesses like that, whether it's a B2C or a B2B service, these are businesses that are solving the problems that their client or customer can't solve on their own. But where there is a decision cycle, where they're unable to make that immediate, say, emergency plumber type decision, they're having to consider something. There might be a proposal, there might be some sort of sales meeting of sorts. in all of that. Something that takes a little bit longer to come to fruition as a business opportunity.
And I also know from my own experience that some of the decisions I've rushed are probably the wrong decision. In hindsight, didn't work out as I'd expected, and what we potentially would call a wrong decision.
Likewise.
So I think people need to take a considered approach, and they need to understand what we can deliver, how we can help them. But I think coming back to it is they actually need to accept that they need help, isn't it?
Mhm.
And actually part of the thing in the book as well is a question of education, isn't it? Is
Mm.
that we need to educate people what is possible. And I think a lot of people in business accept what they're doing at the moment as a norm because that's the way they've always done it. We talked about technician phase, that I'm a motor mechanic, so I decide I'm going to have a garage.
Paul, you just muted there for a moment.
Did I? Are we still
I
on?
couldn't hear that last part.
So so basically, hopefully,
Oh, there
Richard.
you are. You're back.
So what I'm saying is that you're a motor mechanic, and therefore you decide I'm going to be a garage.
Yep.
But the skills that you have as a motor mechanic are different to running a business.
Yep.
And actually, there's talk that business is a game, but it's not a game of two halves, is it? It's a continuous game, isn't it? And actually, I think we need to be careful as to how we educate people on that journey. And I think the problem that we've got is that self-employment small business is seen the panacea of all ills by government, moving people to move from employment to employed status, which is risky, and people need to understand that. So a couple of final points, if I may, Gareth. So if there was one thing that you would want uh, people to take away from our discussion, our chat today, what would that be?
I think the one key thing is what I started with when I framed the book. Start with the end in mind. If there are gaps in the way that you're able to market to your clients or sell to those prospective clients and deliver that work that's resulting in things falling through the cracks along the way. You're not getting the reviews that you want, or you're not getting referred in the way that you want, or you've got clients who are complaining about some of the service that they're getting from you, or they're challenging you on pricing or the structure of your engagements, or you're not getting the kind of leads that you want into your business. Start with the end in mind. Just as I advocate in the book, work backwards from that perspective of what would your absolutely ideal review say. Write that down, literally play the role of a perfect client and write down a review for your business. And then once you've got that in mind, then all of those other 7 steps. So if we start in with the end in mind, that's the endorsement step at the end, step number 8. Or spoiler alert, it's step number 1 as I cover it in the business. But start with that end in mind and work backwards through those 7 processes, those 7 other processes. What you'll find when you read the book is that there are probably a couple of those areas in the book, a couple of those processes in the book that you're already doing amazingly well. And there'll be a couple of other ones where you think, crikey, I'm not doing that at all well. Once you've got those perspectives, focus on those areas that you're not doing particularly well, but do so from the basis of what do you want that final outcome to be? What do you want that referral to somebody else to say? What do you want that review on Google Reviews or Trustpilot or on LinkedIn to say about the service that they've had from you? And with that in mind, you can really then start to think more clearly and more strategically about how to build those systemized processes in your business. That's the one takeaway that I'd love people to take from the book.
So thank you for that. Now, if people wanted to reach out to you as a result of our discussions today, they can find you on LinkedIn, can't they?
Yeah, the best place to find me in terms of social networks is on LinkedIn. And if you go to askgareth.com, that will take you directly through to my LinkedIn profile. If you've liked some of the concepts that we talked about today in today's session, and you'd like to receive my regular weekly newsletter, then if you go to garetheverson.com, there's a sign up link there. I send out one thought for the week every week via that. And if you're interested in at all in working with me or finding out about the kind of work that I do with my clients, my signature offer, if you like, then if you go to workwithgareth.com, then that will redirect you to my services page where you can see some of the concepts that I work on and help my clients with, as well as seeing some of those reviews and testimonials from my own clients.
That's lovely. Thank you for that. So what I'll do is I'll make sure that those contact details are in the show notes. So I've really enjoyed myself today, and thank you for your time, Gareth. And
Thanks for the invitation, Paul.
thank you for being the first one, because the first one is obviously the easiest. But as I know, the first one is more memorable. It's a bit like who was the first person who beat the 4 minute mile. We literally wasn't there a couple of hours afterwards someone beat that time, but we remember who was first, so we'll remember you, Gareth, and I think that's always good.
Thank you.
And thank you for your time today. I've really enjoyed it, and thank you for your offer of sending me the books that I've sent out to the VIP list. And my comment to anybody that hasn't signed up for the VIP list, the VIP list will be a link in the show notes. If you would like to sign up for the VIP list, I'll ensure that you get a copy of the invite to the next session. I'm looking to do one a month this year, and I've got the next 4 or 5 lined up. And also, I would say to people, if there's any authors that you think that we should have discussions with, if you're happy to reach out to me, then I'll obviously make sure that I can invite them. But thank you for your time today. I've really enjoyed myself. And thank you once again, Gareth. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Paul.